Okay, so Walter, we have the Larry Krueger soundboard, but you might need to split it up now into positive versus negative side, because for the first time, we have Niners Nightly host and host of the Krug Show on YouTube, Larry Krueger, joining us on a Victory Monday. Larry, how are you?
We're back, baby. We're back.
You really believe that? You really believe that?
Well,
I kind of do.
I don't know. I don't know. I thought there were some really good things, really, really good things yesterday from Kyle, from Purdy, from D. Winters, from the defense. There were the special teams. A lot of good things yesterday.
Larry,
Guerendo.
I will start with the Kyle Shanahan front of this, because we got a bunch of people being like, the season's over. It was the Bears. The season might be over. They might not make the playoffs. And yes, the Chicago Bears are not playing good football. They just fired their coach. But all that aside, just forget the opponent. The 49ers have not looked like this offensively hardly at all this year. So what were you seeing in the play calling that made things look like the 49ers of old?
Well, I really thought there was a lot of creativity from Kyle in not giving the Bears a solid feel for exactly where they were going to use Guerendo and how. I thought they were very multiple in the way they utilized him. I thought we saw a few more screens. I really thought there was indications, if you looked at some of the numbers going into the matchup, that the Bears struggled to defend the screen pass. And then, utilizing Kittle as much as they did. I mean, Kittle, I mentioned it to him in the postgame. He's had 18 targets in the month. He's caught 16 of them. I mean, he's having a phenomenal year. And I think he's been a little underutilized, to be completely honest. And then I thought defensively, I mean, this Bears team ran for 5 yards a carry last week against Detroit on Thanksgiving. They could run the ball, and then Niners shut down the run, shut down Swift. I know he had the quad, but he seemed to be running pretty hard anyway. And they did a really nice job shutting down their run and making Caleb do it from the pocket, and he's just not ready for that right now. And then they teed off on him. Yatir Gross-Matos, I mean, what a revelation he was. He's never had more than 4.5 sacks in a year. He had 3 yesterday.
And back-to-back plays at the end to kind of end the game. But it started with the running game. And when Kyle has the running game going, and obviously he's not had the running game going at all. It wasn't good in Buffalo Snow, but 34 carries, 131 yards, and it was Guerendo with the 15. And we wondered, how many times could he carry the ball? It was his second start, going back to the 4th grade, the other one being the Holiday Bowl last year against USC. But let's just break him down and start with his ability to catch the ball. Because I think that opening drive, the middle screen to Kittle for 33 got it all going. But that option route to Guerendo looked a lot like Christian McCaffrey on the 22-yarder on the first drive. And then the wheel route when Brock checked out of the play and hit him for the 27-yarder down the right sideline, again, looked like McCaffrey. The guy was a wide receiver in high school. He's the state of Indiana's Mr. Football, and it was because he was the top wide receiver in the state his senior year. He went to Wisconsin to play wide receiver. They like to run the ball, so they moved him to running back. The speed is obviously there, the long speed, but the short area quickness, a 1.54 10-yard split, Larry, on top of the 4.33 40. He catches everything. I know you saw it in the OTAs. Just can he be, because Christian unlocked the passing game with his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. Can Guerendo, I don't want to say be CMC-like, but can he be CMC light? Can he be a little of Christian as a pass-catching option out of the backfield?
He's better in open spaces. If you can get him in open spaces as a runner, he's going to be better than if you try to make him pick and slide and find holes inside. He's going to be better in open spaces as a receiver. He's just a dynamic player. But what was really incredible to watch is that what you just hit off the start there, Greg, is that he's so natural as a receiver. I mean, he looks very natural. He watches the ball into his hands. His concentration on the receptions. I mean, I watch him at practice every day. He doesn't drop a lot. I mean, he doesn't drop a lot of passes in practice, and they run a lot of drills, and they do quite a few reps. So, yeah, I mean, this is a guy that I wanted to see him get touches. The bottom line in the NFL, you got to get your speed on the field. They got to find a way to get Cowing on the field from scrimmage. They got to find a way to get Guerendo on the field and utilize his running ability. These are your game breakers. These are the guys that the defensive coordinator is going to stay up all night, worried about, because they can burn you. And they got Guerendo involved. They still have yet to get Cowing involved. I'd almost love to see a trade. If they could trade, Deebo Samuel from scrimmage for Deebo Samuel, the return man, and then use Cowing less on returns because he looks very uncertain, and more down the field as a receiver. I think that could work. But I think they also found something yesterday. They found not just a win against a struggling team. I think they found a formula that they can replicate down the stretch here to win some of these games.
Talking to Larry Krueger, and of course you can hear him tonight at 6 o'clock for Niners Nightly, which he does every day, Monday through Friday, and he also does the 49ers forecast on the weekends, although will not be the case this weekend with a short week. 49ers play the Rams on Thursday at Levi's, so let's keep the conversation on the receivers, Larry. I think Ricky Pearsall's clearly part of the future plans, and he kind of gets a pass on his rookie year because he did not exactly have a normal preseason. But Jennings, this is not a fluke now, watching him tear up defenses, be the reliable man coverage beater for Brock Purdy. I mean, if you mention Deebo Samuel, and we don't know what his future is going to be, but if he's off the team, is Jennings your legitimate number 2 option next year alongside Ayuk?
I mean, Jennings, Greg, is just so solid. I mean, he's just he's a money player. I mean, he's about money. You put money on the table, this guy shows up. He kind of reminds me of the Niners version of Draymond Green. He's his own guy. He goes to the beat of his own drummer. He makes his own rules. He doesn't want to talk after he's had a good game and the team's lost, because he knows that it's going to be, critique the team. He doesn't want to do that. Or it's going to be, hey, Juwan, you're great. And he doesn't want to do that either. So I really do respect this guy. This guy shows up not for the money, not for the fame, not for the glory. He shows up for the W. He's a great competitor. And if you could clone him, you would. If you had 53 guys that were all, wired like Juwan, you'd win every Super Bowl. I mean, he's just a big money guy. And the bigger the moment, not only that, how about some of those third down conversions? I mean, almost every one of his catches is important. They go for touchdowns. They go for first downs. He makes so many plays. I got to think that the trust that Brock Purdy has in Jennings is just off the charts.
And he's made an impressive transformation with a season-ending injury to Ayuk. He's become the X-wide receiver, which is the tough receiver. You're out there alone, away from the slot formation side, up on the line. They can press you, and he mainly played F, as a slot guy early in his career. So, with Ayuk coming back, I think he can make Ayuk more that move guy at Z and let Juwan play X so they go back and forth. But you talked about him being Draymond Green. The guy that really is the Draymond Green of this team is Dre Greenlaw. And, just the way he plays and right up against the edge. And so we'll find out when Kyle talks today on the teleconference. The reason I bring it up, he may need one more week and a week and a half to get ready for Miami. It was a bad injury because Devondre Campbell keeps getting better and better. And I know you liked D. Winters yesterday, but Devondre Campbell was the 49ers' top tackler yesterday. He had 7 total, 6 unassisted. He was blowing up plays all over the field in the pass game, the run game. He's getting better, really starting, right before the bye. He had a couple of good back-to-back games, Larry. And you mentioned Winters. When Big Play Dre does come back, who loses playing time? Do you keep Campbell on the field in the base? Do you slow Dre back into it? D. Winters has got to be on the field with his speed, but Devondre Campbell was getting picked on the beginning of the year. Now I thought he was one of the best players on defense yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, he makes a lot of tackles because they're going there. A lot of times they're attacking his part of the field. But he also I think it's fair to say he has improved as this year has gone on. I think the last couple of weeks he's had some better games, but I do think it will be him that would lose some playing time. I mean, the one thing about D. Winters is just playing at a speed right now that's just fantastic. I mean, if you can get that level of speed on the second level, I mean, that's really what you want. And he's an underpowered guy. He falls off some tackles. He's not a perfect player. But, man, the way Winters was flying around, I mean, man, you got to have that. You got to have that. That was really fun to watch. But, it'll be interesting to see. I'm interested to see what Dre looks like coming back. And you're right. I mean, Greenlaw is, in a lot of ways, their Draymond because he's the tone setter and he's the intimidator. I'm excited as heck about this, Greg. I know he's been out a while, but think about it this way. We haven't seen Dre Greenlaw at full tilt in December ever. We've never seen him this fresh, this late in the year. And if it, obviously it's a major injury and who knows how he comes back. But if he comes back and he's similar to the player that we saw when he left, he is going to give this defense a gigantic shot in the arm.
Continue talking to Larry Krueger after I tell you that you're listening to KNBR and KNBR FM San Francisco, the sports leader, a Cumulus media station, as we roll on to the 11 o'clock hour. Larry, defensively, things were great yesterday. That has not been the case for much of the year. The Hufanga-Mustafa combination was superb. But we also, at the same time, watching the 49ers look all smooth. The LA Rams dropped 44 points on the Buffalo Bills and handed them their third loss. They're coming into town quickly. How in the world can San Francisco slow down a healthy LA Rams offense with Stafford, Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua, and possibly Cooper Kupp?
Well, I watched that game in the second half while I was at the stadium, because I had a big money line parlay, and Buffalo was the last of it, and they, of course, didn't win. So I watched a little bit too much of this than I care to admit. But I'll say this: Buffalo put no pressure on Stafford, none. And if you allow Matthew Stafford to stand back there in a clean pocket with all the weapons that he has now, with a healthy Puka and a healthy Cooper Kupp, you're going to lose. And if the Niners can't pressure Stafford, they're going to lose. Stafford is older, and he is two different guys. If you pressure him, older guys don't like to be pressured, and they don't like to be hit. And if you pressure him and hit him, he'll make mistakes. He'll throw you picks. If you don't, he will carve you up like a Thanksgiving turkey. Puka, Nacua, and Cooper Kupp weren't there in the first game. The Niners couldn't handle Tutu Atwell in the verticals. They're not running it well, but they're running it. They're committing to the run. They ran Kyren yesterday 29 times. He only got 3 yards a carry. So they will commit to the run. But if they don't put some pressure on Stafford and give him some different looks, and he's able to just play pitch and catch all day with Puka and Cooper Kupp, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long night, Thursday night.
Yeah, I mean, he's the same as Kyle. He wants to run it. They ran it 42 times. Kyren 29 times. The rookie Blake Corum had 8. They gave Puka 5 jet sweeps. They had 137 yards rushing, which is not a lot on 42 carries, but they played keep away with Buffalo, and, Josh Allen went nuts. But Stafford threw for 320. The other side of it is, that the strength of their team is their pass rush and the young front, with Verse and Young on the outside, and obviously Kobe Turner and Fisk and Bobby Brown inside. The one thing is the Niners are getting a little light on the left side of the line. Jalen Moore has done a good job with Trent out the last few games. And Ben Bartch played really well in Buffalo, that he went out to a high ankle sprain. High ankles are slow to heal. So they did bring in Spencer Burford, who started the first half of last year at right guard, then now playing over at left guard. How do you look at the left side of the line? Jalen Moore's playing well, but could that left guard spot, assuming Bartch can't go with the high ankle, Larry, could that be a point of attack with Burford there?
Well, no question. And then, they're also, this week they got Buffalo's offensive line. That's the best line going right now. And they, Allen's taken fewer sacks than anybody. So now they go from that line to the Niner line, and it's not even the Niner line. It's the Niner line with some backups. The Rams were held sackless in this game against Josh Allen yesterday. No sacks, only one hit on the quarterback. Verse is the guy. I mean, I don't even know how. I don't know that I've ever seen anybody this size. I mean, you go back to like Charles Haley, the last time I can remember somebody this size who had this kind of strength. I mean, he is just unbelievably strong. He's got the greatest play strength of almost any defensive end I've seen in 20 years. I mean, he literally can lift up offensive tackles and throw them back. He's got crazy strength, and he's got a relentless motor. So he's an all-day deal on blocking him. And Byron Young's a speed rusher who's got great get-off. So they hugely challenge you there. Kobe Turner is a really powerful interior rusher. And then the Florida State guy, Fisk, is a try-hard guy with a relentless motor. So, I mean, I'll say this, man. Les Snead and McVay did an amazing job in a very short amount of time. Last year, upgrading their O-line. This year, upgrading their D-line without Aaron Donald. It's going to be a huge challenge. I would suggest running the ball, getting the ball out quick, and not allowing the Niner tackles to be on an island with these guys. And then the other factor in this game that I think is going to be huge is special teams. I mean, the Niners had a very clean special teams game, but the Rams have a good special teams. They got a block punt yesterday. That's a big area to be concerned about Thursday night.
Few more minutes here with Larry Krueger, and before we let you go, we're going to shift over to a different sport, because the last time we had you on, we talked a little bit about Hassan Kim and that possibility to the Giants. What are you thinking about Willie Adames, the Buster Posey era, taking a big swing here?
Well, I mean, I know he's not the greatest defensive shortstop, but I mean, the Giants needed some hitters that can hit 3, 4, 5 in a lineup, and I think Adames can do that. And then I really like the fact that that they went aggressively at a shortstop and didn't just try to kind of like, well, let's see how it goes, because the two spots on the field that are impossible to fill if you don't have real players is catcher and shortstop. And they have a legitimate catcher in Bailey, the Gold Glove winner. But they really, Luciano kind of proved that he wasn't the guy. And Tyler Fitzgerald, I think, is not the guy. So they had to have a shortstop. And there aren't any out there. You'd pay an arm and a leg if you had to trade for one. I'm encouraged that they got Adames to sign here. He's 29. He's in his prime. It's very difficult for the Giants to attract hitters, because they're always thinking about that next contract, but then you don't want to get guys in their mid-30s. So to sign a 28, 29-year-old guy to a reasonable contract length, I think it's very difficult to do. It's a lot harder to do than people think, because everybody's worried about, well, if I play in San Francisco, what about my next contract? My numbers will go down. They were able to get this guy, and he's still in his prime, and he's going to help the middle of their lineup. So they still have other holes. I mean, I'm looking at a starting lineup that has, Yaz and Grant McCray and Lamont Wade. I don't think those guys should start. So we'll see. There's more building to be done. I'd love to see them get Corbin Burns, St. Mary's kid, and he's a real anchor for the rotation. But I like it. It's you have to have a shortstop, and they didn't have one on the verge, so you got to go pay. And they paid a high price, but they got the money.
Corbin was represented by CAA for a long time, and Willie Adames is represented by CAA. Gio Rodriguez is their head of their Latin division, and of course Jeff Berry, Buster's agent coming in from CAA in the front office, think they have a connection. So we'll get into it more. I've been watching Willie Adames all morning on the film room, and easy power the other way. The guy is an RBI machine. He's not going to hit for a high average, but he's going to drive in runs the way Buster said he likes the RBI. So we'll get into that more. Just lastly, because you came in, kind of what I was saying in the first segment, they're back. And I kind of thought, just coming off this trip to the polar vortexes and Killian has dubbed it to Green Bay and Buffalo and getting a Buffalo blizzard, it was going to be hard. But just the California sunshine, they looked like themselves. They got a lot of injuries, obviously. We'll see about Nick and Trent playing, but McCaffrey's not coming back. Do they have enough, Larry, to get this done after a 5-7 start, 3 straight losses, looking just terrible, to come back and win? I know it's the Bears, but they're a solid team. They're just not winning games. But they got the Rams. They got to go to Miami. You got the Lions. You got Arizona at the end. Can they make that game a winner take all, or at least try to get in? Do they have enough? Do you think? Can they come close to running the table, or in fact run the table to get in?
I would say yes. Now, maybe it's wishful thinking, but I'll say this. There's a couple things that takeaways from yesterday being in the locker room in the postgame. This is a room full of guys who want to fight. Okay, I mean it's fight or flight, right? I mean it's there's no more retreat. There's no more retreat. There's no more room to retreat. So you're either got to fight it out or you got to duck out. And it's not a room full of guys who want to duck out. It's a room full of guys with a lot of professional pride. This is where John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan investing in character is going to pay off. And I mentioned it to Dennis in the post game. December football is when you find out about your character and your football team. If you don't have any, you drift away. If you got tremendous character, you rise to the occasion. There's tremendous character in that room. The other thing that stood out in the post game is when George Kittle said to us, not that they weren't going hard, but that, they just need to have that desperation, that fear, that desperation, that edge. They came out in this game and they flew around. They were physical. And they played with that edge, maybe out of fear that their season was going down the tubes. But if they can maintain that edge and get some rush and disturb Stafford and make him feel their defensive line, I think they can win this game. I think they can win in Miami. I know they can beat Arizona. It's all about Detroit. I don't know if they can run the table and beat Detroit. I would probably say they can't. But it starts with do they got a room full of fighters? And they do. So it starts there. And I thought yesterday was very encouraging. I thought it was very encouraging, too, because I think Kyle has been in a little bit of a funk. And I thought some of his play calls and maybe needing to kind of scheme Guerendo open maybe is going to put him on top of his game. I thought Kyle was really sharp yesterday.
Larry, thanks so much for stopping by. We appreciate the time. Go enjoy this Victory Monday and tell people where they can find you tonight at 6 o'clock.
We're back, baby. No, we're tonight at 6 o'clock. Check me out on Niners Nightly on the KMBR on 104.5 and of course 680 in the AM dial. And as we do the day after the game, we do a lot of guests, and we'll do some guests and look ahead to the Rams later in the week. It's a big Thursday. It's going to come on us quick, but tonight we devote to your phone calls. So I'll spend the rest of the afternoon listening to Kyle and breaking it down. I'll have a bunch of new thoughts for tonight, and then I want to hear all yours. So we'll take calls from 6 to 7 tonight.
I got to tell you, Niners Nightly is a good time, and it always sounds better coming from Larry Krueger than it does when I promote it. So, Larry, thanks so much. Maybe we'll make this 2 in a row next week, and actually we'd have a whole weekend to digest it if they can get this done on Thursday. So we'll see.
We're back. Thanks, guys. Have a great morning.
He said that 3 times or 4 times. Does he really believe it? Does he really believe it, Greg? Are they back? Are they back?
I mean, I would say that our show has no right to talk because we're the artists of manifestation with the exorcism, and you've been pulling up the foghorn for the camera a couple times already. So sometimes you got to say it to believe it. I don't know, chicken or the egg, you tell me, but